In this video, we are going to analyze Shakespeare's play Antony and Cleopatra. First of all, we have an introduction to the Renaissance period. What happened in the Renaissance time? When did it start? And what's its main characteristics and features? The Renaissance started in Italy, in the 13th and 14th centuries. It started with Petrarch and Dante. Actually, this was in Italy. Those people cultivated the classical literature. They went back to the literature and the tradition of the ancient Rome and Greece on one hand, and they stressed the importance of man, on the other. They glorified man and the human mind. So, it was like a return to man and human qualities. The Renaissance came immediately after the Middle Ages. Such a literature was purely religious. In this case, man's intellect and human qualities were not neglected, but they were to be evaluated according to religion. The Renaissance period was a reaction against the Middle Ages, the religious authority of the Middle Ages, and against the religious works. In other words, it was a return to the Greek time or era, to the Roman and Greek literature. Then, it spread all over Europe in the 15th century, and characterized by humanism. At the Renaissance time, England witnessed the development of theatre. Theatre gradually freed itself from religious rules in terms of building, those architectural building, and many new subjects to replace the religious ones. We have also drama representing the scientific spirit in the Renaissance, in spite of the new one that is to say which could go back to history. These new plays were of political issues and social issues. So, drama freed itself from the religious puritanic grip. We have non-religious subjects. It is an important idea that drama witnessed its zenith, its best form during the Renaissance. Shakespeare marked this age with his great works. Renaissance means also the development of theatre. People of this age witnessed the building of new theatres. That is so because theatres were to be increasingly built outside the city first and then to the city, with that global form. Notice that many theatres were to be semicircle. With this we conclude the main achievements in the Renaissance period with general outlook. Now, we have an introduction to Shakespeare. He was born in Stratford in 1564. He just finished the grammar school, which is like the elementary school today. Because he was a man of theatre and a poet, he worked as a schoolmaster in his city. The start in his career was as a man of theatre. That is so because he replaced an actor who died suddenly. Later on, he turned into a great extraordinary playwright. Different plays were written at different stages. His works were reviewed in chronological or historical order. We can divide this career of writing into 4 stages. The first stage was before 1595. It marks the beginning of his writing. Shakespeare wrote dramatical chronicles such as Henry VI. The second stage is from 1595 to 1601. At this stage he showed himself as a master of theatre. He wrote different kinds of plays, such as Richard II and Henry V. The third stage is from 1601 to 1608. In this stage he produced violent and dark plays, and most of them were tragedies. Our play Antony and Cleopatra belongs to this stage. Some of these plays were based on Roman history, such as Antony and Cleopatra and Julius Caesar. Others were based on Greek history such as Timon of Athens. And some of them were based on legends such as Hamlet and King Lear. This period was the most powerful among all, concerning his works. He looked at nature from the same dark corner and from the same dark thoughts. The final stage is from 1608 to 1616. It is characterized by calmness. Shakespeare showed his reconciliation with nature. It is characterized by its serenity, not like the third stage, which is full of gloomy approaches. He wrote his last play, The Tempest, which is not a tragedy nor a comedy, but it is a tragicomedy, a mixture of sadness and happiness. Shakespeare died in 1616. Now we have the structure of the play. The first act. The first act is considered to be an exposition, or an introduction, or a summary. The writer introduces the play and gives us a general idea of the main conflict in the play, the general characters, and what is going on over the stage. Usually this introduction or general information is made or introduced by subordinate characters. A clear example about that is the opening of Hamlet's play. The play is introduced by Hamlet's two friends to give a general background to the play. Now in this play, this kind of information is given by Philo to Roman characters. If you turn to the first passage in the play, Philo is shown introducing the play to us. In the introduction, the writer turns up that there are two words, Antony and Cleopatra, and that Antony has forgotten all his duties and responsibilities towards his country and people, including his Roman identity, and he is in love with Cleopatra. Antony is a great soldier, a Roman leader, one of the main leaders of his time, and he has neglected all those and has had a love affair with his beloved Cleopatra. The main conflict in this play is demonstrated in the sense that there is the Roman identity, and there is the Egyptian identity on the other. We have duty on the first place, and there is love and pleasure and human quality on the second place. The main situation is presented in the first passage, in the first act of the play. Philo is a subordinate character, who throws lights on the main situation of the play, and he gets the audience familiarized with the main situation. Now Philo says on the first page, "Nay, but this dotage." The measure. He means by this dotage the infatuation, love affair. Antony is our general. Antony is the center of his talk. He overflows the measure because it is something that cannot be believed, and that exceeds all limits, something that is beyond measure. Those his godly eyes, plated Mars. The eyes of the god of war Mars have glowed in the war, and they have been bright in the war. Antony's eyes are just like Mars. He is attached to Mars because of war. Now bend, now turn their view. Now, Antony's eyes have been diverted the attention to something else. He is no longer interested in war or in the military affairs, upon a tawny front, because his attention is diverted from war to Cleopatra, the dark-skinned lady, which in the scuffles on his breast. The imagery now is again on the greatness of the past glory of Antony. He used to have so many shining buckles, which refer to the triumph, glory, and good deeds in the war. So, his heart, and though his breast were full of these buckles, because he is such a great soldier, his breast was about to burst because it was full of these things of honor. Ranges all temper, bellows. Instead of all this greatness of this ruler, he has become the bellows or the cooling fan to cool a gypsy's lust, the lust of an Egyptian lady. All that he is doing now is just cooling off the lust of his beloved Cleopatra. In fact, this is the transition in Antony's character, and this image makes us think of Antony from the beginning of the play right through the course of action. Antony will be always torn between his Roman identity and his Egyptian identity. Moreover, he will be always torn between his duty, his love and his sense of pleasure. We will notice this when we get to his character closer and closer, and will also see this main conflict in his character, in his personality. We are familiarized with the main situation that Antony is torn between the two opposites of the play, Rome and Egypt. Now right before the end of the first act, action starts to rise. In fact, the action or the situation is interrupted by outside forces. There is an outside force which changes the direction of action. How does this happen in the first act? This happens when the messenger arrives from Rome and tells Antony the news of Rome, what is happening there. Now, these bad news change the position of Antony and he decides to leave Egypt for Rome. But what are these news? In fact, Italy was divided into small provinces. There was a civil war. At that time, Italy was ruled by three leaders, Lepidus, Antony, and Caesar. We have also a fourth leader called Pompey or Pompeius ruling an Italian island. Let's say that there are troubles in Rome of military issues, including an external attack from Pompey. Pompey is a powerful man and he keeps attacking Rome from his island. This is what Antony is told in the first act. Moreover, Antony's wife has launched an attack against Caesar, and of course, Caesar is much powerful, so she died in the war. Antony, as a result, decides to leave Egypt and to go back to Rome. We will always notice this conflict of identity in him. On page 15, there is a quick look of what is going on in Rome, and why Antony decides to leave, and how this situation is interrupted by outside forces. These mentioned forces or news initiate the action or the conflict in the play and in Antony. Antony says on page 15, "No more, Queen," that he is going to tell his lady Cleopatra why he is leaving Egypt for Rome, and get her leave to part. Antony will get Cleopatra's permission to leave. For not alone. Speak to us. He admits the fact that he is not leaving because Fulvia, his past wife, is dead now, but there is something else which urges him to go. But the letters too. At home, people and friends at home in Rome are all begging him to go back to Rome. That is so because he says, Sextus Pompeius, to Caesar. Pompeius has the courage to attack Caesar, the representative of Rome from now on. This Pompeius is attacking from the sea. He goes to Cleopatra and tells her that he is leaving to Italy. She does not want him to leave, but stay with her instead. However, he insists on going, and he does leave by the end of the first act. Notice that all these news, namely, the troubles at home, and the external attack, are considered to be external force which initiates in common the action. Actions start to rise at the end of the first act, and before the second act in particular. They contribute their directions upward in the second act. Now, we are going to talk about the structure of the second act. The second act marks the rising action up to the first part of the third one. In the rising action, events advance and become complicated, with a slight push forward. Now, Antony is back in Rome. There is a political conflict there. He meets the other two leaders and there is this political peace conference to be arranged for making peace in the reign. At the same time, he marries Caesar's sister, Octavia. They decide to live in Athens. Throughout reading the play we will all know that this marriage is not for love's sake, but it is for some political affairs. Antony marries poor Octavia just to secure peace with her brother Caesar. The three leaders meet together and they also arrange a meeting with Pompey in order to have a treaty with him, a peace treaty, that is to say. We notice that things seems to be settled, but there are cunning people among them. Reading on the courses of action, we will come across the feeling that this peace treaty is not going to last, because of all these characters. The structure of the third act. Antony changes his mind and decides to leave his newly wife, a matter that complicates things. He goes back to Egypt claiming that he is going to attack Caesar because this leader has insulted his fame in public, and on purpose. At this stage the action goes up and all things go up till we get to the turning point of the play, the crisis. Caesar will return to him. Caesar is described as a deviated person, a person that cannot be trusted because he does not keep promises. He has imprisoned Lepidus because he is powerful. You know that in the second act, there was a peace treaty, and we get the feeling or the impression that this treaty will not last. That is so because people are quite deviate. Actually, they are not the same as what they show. Caesar has imprisoned Lepidus, and thus, Lepidus is out of the conflict. At the same time, Caesar launched an attack against Pompey and killed him. Here is another one out of the contest. What is left is the two rivals, Antony and Caesar, alone in the cold battle, threatening each other. This is how the action goes up, till we get to the crisis, which is the real battle of the two leaders. Antony decides to launch an attack against Caesar. Undoubtedly, there are other subordinate events of no importance in comparison with these. On page 93 Antony decides to leave Octavia and go back to Egypt to launch an attack against Caesar. He manifests to the others his reasons. They are all logical for sure. Nay, Pompey. Caesar not only has killed Fulvia, this can be excusable. But he hath. Pompey. But he has attacked Pompey in spite of their peace treaty. spoke scantly of me. In addition to that, he badly spoke of him and defamed him in public, when perforce of honor. Instead of paying him words of honor, he has insulted him. Cold and sickly he vented them. When there was a chance for him to speak nicely of Antony, or to give him honor, what he did is that he vented them, for he said them coldly and sickly. Most narrow. Lent me. He gave Antony, this great leader, most narrow measure and belittled him harmfully. When the best hint from his teeth. Whenever he has a chance to talk nicely about him, he says it quickly and badly. Actually, Antony shows us how much Caesar is a deviant master, and a cunning master. This tells the reader that the world now is divided between the two rivals, Antony and Caesar. Everything in the play is going up to the crisis. The crisis of the play is symbolized in the Battle of Actium between Antony and Caesar. Antony and Cleopatra lose the battle, and at the end Antony decides to leave as a normal citizen. He asks Caesar to give him this chance, simply because he does not want to be this great leader anymore. But Caesar refuses. Then, Antony asks to another duel, thinking that there is a last chance for him. We, as audience, know that things are turning down. The climax of the crisis is on its way for descending to the end or to the catastrophe. Page 111 is a holistic outlook of what happened in Actium. Enobarbus is conversating with Scarus, a witness on the causes of the battle. How appears the fight? And the answer comes to him as such: in the midst of the fight, of twins appeared. In the middle of the battle the two armies, the Egyptian army and the Roman one, were equal, or were like a twin. They had equal position. Both has the same, or rather, the elder, or our army was even exceeding in the middle of the fight. The breeze upon her and flies. He asks, what did Cleopatra do at the middle of the fight when we were about to win or to exceed the other army? And the answer comes catastrophic, because she just withdrew like a cow in June. He says that the wind blew her away from the battle, for a breeze came upon her, which means that she withdrew from the battle of Actium cowardly. The second passage, spoken by the same person, gives us a clear idea about what happened when she fled away. Scarus, she once being loofed, she turns away and disappeared. The noble ruin. Magic. That is Antony, who is ruined by her magic. The noble. And like a doting mallard. He appeared as a stupid lover, leaving the fight in Hereth. He followed her, leaving behind his back his fame and honor for a bad woman of no dignity. I never saw such shame. Did violates itself. He concludes by lamenting this shameful retreat. This is what happened in the Battle of Actium in details, and this is why Antony lost the battle. Simultaneously, after the crisis, there should be a falling action. So, after a highly tense moment, there should be a release of emotion, a release of intensity. There must be an end for every crisis. Usually, there is hope that things may change, that something may happen to change the direction of action, or something may delay the catastrophe. But of course we have a feeling that Antony has lost hope forever. The second battle takes place somewhere next to Alexandria, and again we have some kind of hope. Antony in this second battle, in the first day, he wins the battle and he is happy and feels great. But, in the second day, the Egyptian army surrendered, took off their hats and held flags to the Roman army. Now, the action is falling and falling again to make Antony fall in total despair again and again. Now we have the fourth act. Antony knows now that Cleopatra betrayed him. That is so because the surrender of her army was ordered by Her Majesty. So, he becomes angry and falls in despair. In the middle of his agony he hears that Cleopatra killed herself, and of course this is not true because she sent him the false report that she is dead, aiming by doing so to attract his emotions. Now, having heard that she is dead, he decides to kill himself actually, but his friend kills himself instead. This faithful friend feels bad for his master's tragic end. Antony kills himself and falls on his sword. He appears on the stage half dead. Antony is brought to her chamber. He finds out that she is still alive and dies in her arms happily, in the end of Act 4. Lastly, we have the structure of the fifth act. The catastrophe continues in Act 5, for it is now unavailable. It is the conclusion or the outcome of the whole action of the preceding events. Of course, Cleopatra refuses Caesar's offer that she can live and stay in Rome, and she refuses to be taken as a prisoner, and thus be insulted by the mobs there, for being all the time a prostitute, not a queen. She refuses to be humiliated by Caesar and Octavia. So, she decides to die peacefully beside Antony. Cleopatra chooses death and honor to the living in humiliation after Antony. So, she committed suicide at the end. The structure of the play is finished with this. Please, do not forget to click notification bell, like, share, comment, subscribe my channel.